What do you do if you are suddenly called out to make a presentation or deliver a talk or a speech? Hi, my name is Parul Banka. I transform professionals into terrific storytellers. In this video, I want to explain to you the concept of prepared versus impromptu speaking. I will also share with you 2 templates and explain to you how you can effectively use these templates in your everyday work as well as personal life. And then we will look at some examples on where you can apply these concepts. So let's try and understand what prepared versus impromptu speeches are and how they are different. Prepared speeches, as the name indicates, are the speeches where you have had an opportunity to prepare for them. So when your manager calls you and says,
"Hey, can you do a presentation on the sales performance of your department next week?"
That is a prepared speech. And while you're doing that presentation the following week, if they call out and say,
"Hey, can you also talk for 5 minutes about the various people initiatives going on in your department?"
that becomes an impromptu speech. Why? Because you have not had the opportunity to prepare for it.
It usually takes me more than 3 weeks to prepare a good impromptu speech,
said Mark Twain. In that spirit, I want to help you get prepared for the impromptu speaking that you may be required to do. So, the first approach that I want to share with you is comparison. Comparison, yes, good, better, best. Bad, worse, worst. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Which brings in a certain balanced view. Great movie, by the way. Let's look at 2 different examples on how we can apply these techniques. Let's take the first example as, what does a typical day at work look like to you? A very generic and standard question. And then let's take an abstract example. Imagine that you are the keyboard on a Mac. Tell us about your experience. So let's look at the first one. Tell us about a typical day at work for you. You can use one of these templates. Let's say the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you can launch into some of the interesting things that you do at work. Let's say inducting and mentoring new members who are recruited on the team. The worst bit is making presentations. Just an example. But what is the ugly bit? Oh my God, the horrible detailed reporting that you have to do every single day. Or if you want to give a positive spin, then you can look at what's good, what's even better, but what's great about your work. So instead of thinking, oh my God, what do I say? What does a typical day at work look like? You can use these templates. Now let's move on to the second example, the abstract example. I was actually preparing for this video and working on my Mac. That's when this idea occurred to me. If you are the keyboard on the Mac, what does a typical day look like for you? Tell us about your experience. And you can use the exact same templates there as well. So now you are the Mac, you are the keyboard on the Mac. And you can say the good, the better, and the best. So you can say that the good thing about being the keyboard on the Mac is that I am instrumental in helping my owner do all of her work. If she does something, whether it's in her personal life or in her professional life, as long as it comes to web search or using a gadget, I know it. What's even better is because she uses me to take notes during her coaching conversations. So I'm actually privy to some of the most amazing conversations she has. But what really makes my day is when she takes time off to journal her personal thoughts. So after a long day at work, she actually sets aside some time to journal her reflections and learning. And that's the most amazing part for me. You don't really have to say the good, the bad, and the ugly, or the good, the better, the best. You don't have to say that, but you can use this template in the back of your mind. Or let's say you want to bring in a more balanced view and not just go gaga over how amazing it is to be the keyboard on the Mac, and you want to use the third template, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you say, well, the good part about my experience as the keyboard on the Mac is that I am privy to all the coaching conversations that my owner has. And there's some really life-transforming conversations. I love that. What is really bad about my experience is that I never get any time off because she uses me for work. She also uses me for her personal stuff. So it's great that I'm part of all those coaching conversations, but she may actually be off work, but she would still use me to journal her thoughts. I don't get a holiday, no time off for me, and that's really bad. But you know what? What really ticks me off is when she decides that she's really busy and she wants to have a working lunch, and so she would bite into a sandwich and she would still be working. I don't get a lunch break. That's definitely one of my peeves. But I absolutely hate being touched with those icky, sandwichy fingers. Oh, that's yuck. So you see, whether it is a regular conversation that you're having, a regular question that you're addressing, or a completely weird, abstract conversation you're having, you can still apply the same concept. Does that make sense? I want to speak to you about the second template now. What is the second template? The timeline. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. The past, the present, and the future. Now again, let's go back to exactly the same examples that we addressed using the previous template of comparison. What does a typical day at work look like to you? And instead of going into comparison, you can actually respond to this question using a timeline. It may be actually hard to think about what a typical day at work looks like because you would be doing so many things in those 8 hours or 10 hours, 9 hours, whatever your typical day looks like. But it is a lot easier to actually think of something prominent that happened yesterday. So let's say there was a new person who joined your team and you mentored them. You took them under their wing and that's something you really, really enjoy. And you said, oh, my typical day at work is really interesting because I get to do a variety of things. For example, there was a new person who joined my team yesterday and I took them under my wing and I mentored them. And then you go on explaining a little bit about how you did that. Now let's say that today you are scheduled to do something different. You are scheduled to do a presentation to your management about the sales performance of your team or your department. And you say, and you draw on that experience or that activity and say, and I also get to do interesting things, amazing things like making presentations to the board or to the executive management. And I really, really enjoy that. Because it helps me showcase my department and the amazing work we do. And it is also very fulfilling at a personal level because I get seen and heard and validated as an individual. I am able to put my message out there, and that's really very, very special. But it's not just work. It's not just working for the team, and it's not just my personal goals that make my work so enjoyable. And you can then look at some fun activity that's probably scheduled in the future. So you can say, it's not just work, but it's also a lot of fun that we have. For example, this Friday evening, we are going out for drinks and we are going to spend some time chatting on dinner. And that's something that we really enjoy doing as a team. And there are times that we actually schedule a day out and we even invite our families. It's almost like time out and bonding as individuals, and it's amazing. So you see, the question is still, what's a typical day at work look like to you? And you can actually launch into timeline. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Let's go back to the second question, the abstract question that we were working with. Imagine that you are the keyboard on a Mac. What does a typical day look like to you? And that's when you actually go back and apply the exact same principles. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Because when you apply a template like the comparison or the timeline, you actually lend a structure to what you are saying. So instead of having your thoughts all over the place, you become more organized, and it is easier to communicate, and it is also easier for your audience to understand and appreciate what you are sharing with them. So if you are the keyboard on the Mac and you want to apply yesterday, today, tomorrow, you could probably choose an example like this. That yesterday you spent a lot of time preparing for today's event. So yesterday you could say that you were instrumental in helping your owner type all these scripts and plan for all the videos that she would be shooting today. And today you were actually sitting behind the camera. You were actually the camera, almost. And she recorded all these videos. And what will be really fun is to wait and see the final outcome. When she would edit the videos and really see how they have come out. So it's an exciting day at work, and you do it often. So that's what a typical day at work looks like to you. I want you to understand and appreciate that these templates are not just for people who do professional speaking or who are always required to deliver presentations at work. You can apply these templates, these concepts, not just at work, but also in your personal life. So a very simple example could be that, let's say you're sitting with your family and chatting at the dinner, and your partner asks you, so how was your day at work today? What did you do? And so you don't have to respond to them necessarily in a disorganized way. You can actually utilize this template and think of, depending on how you're feeling and how your day has been, you can pick up one of these templates and say, my day was amazing. Good, better, best. It was an average day. Some good things, some not so good. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Or if it was, let's say, a horrendous day, you can say bad, worst, worst. The day started awfully, but it got worse. And you know what? The worst thing that happened was, so you're still having a dinner time conversation, but you can lend some structure to do it and do it in a nice way. A second example could be, let's say you go out on a date with the person of your dreams and you have really put yourself out there. You have really prepared well because they mean so much to you. You know that they are the perfect person for you. And let's say during preparation, you decide on these 5 things that you would talk to them because you really want them to get an understanding of who you are. But Murphy's Law, they talk to you about those 5 things, but they also talk to you about the 6th thing that you have not thought about for a long time. And so it becomes an example of impromptu speaking to you. And so what do? Instead of plappering away or coming across as disorganized, you can actually utilize one of these templates. So let's say, just a random question, they ask you, tell me about some of the experiences that you have had, experiences that have defined you, or let's say that have stayed with you, and talk about the ugliest experiences as well as the most amazing experiences that you have had. Just a random question. It could be anything that they ask you. And you say, oh, okay. And you can immediately think about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you go and talk about an amazing experience that you have had. So if, let's say, I'm that person answering that question, I would say, oh, I want to share with you what I experienced when I went paragliding in Switzerland. And that actually meant a lot to me because I have grown up with fear of heights. So when I was actually pushed off, because I didn't do it on my own, when I was pushed off the cliff at 4,000 feet and I was up in the air, it was a big thing for me because I was doing something against my biggest fear, which is the fear of heights. It meant a lot to me. It was a huge personal victory to me. And then I can go on explaining about or sharing with them about one of the experiences that I'm not proud of. And I can share with them how when I was in college, I actually pulled out of a speaking performance wherein I was selected as the master of ceremonies, but I chickened out. And I chickened out not because I didn't have the skills, but because I didn't feel worthy of addressing an audience of over 500 people. That's not something I'm proud of. And then I can go on and share a horrible experience if I want to. And I can go on and share with them, let's say, a short incident that happened when I was going through cancer. And so I'm adhering to the template of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Or I can say the good, the better, and the best, or bad, worse, worst. Or I can go back to the timeline and respond to this question and pick up something amazing that had happened in the past. So here I'm combining both the templates. Something amazing that had happened in the past, something interesting that I'm really looking forward to today, and something that I'm absolutely not looking forward to in the future. Let's say that report, that presentation I have to do, that huge Excel sheet work I have to do. So you can actually do the comparison and timelines on their own, or you can bring them together and respond effectively. So yes, the question may be impromptu, but you can actually use these templates to bring an order, an organization to what you are saying. So I hope that was helpful. I invite you to join my community, my tribe at www.caramelcoaching.com. I would love to hear from you. Do take a moment to comment on this video and let me know what were some of the amazing experiences you had while doing impromptu speaking, and also the ones that didn't go so well. I'll speak to you soon on another video, and you take care, stay awesome.